Hi everyone. Got a few questions recently about a post I did a while back about space frames. So this is a very quick and dirty sort of schematic approach to doing a space frame, just to give you sort of a sense of how something could look on top of a roof. There's a couple of issues with it which I can point out, but I just want to show you the basics of how to sketch out one of these sorts of bad boys. So what I've got here is I've got a divided surface that has one particular funny curtain panel put in on it, and I'm just going to dissect this a little bit to show you what it's put on. So I've got this curtain panel. This curtain panel is in turn hosted into a surface that has been divided and patterned like this, and I'm just going to reduce this back down to its sort of basicness. So I've got a surface that I've just hit divided surface, and I've gotten this thing on it. Now if I open up that panel to look at it a little bit, this is my panel that creates that space frame, and I'm just going to dissect this a little bit more. What I've got here is I've got a series of sweeps that go around on reference line geometry. See this reference line here, it has a profile that's swept along it here. Same with the other guys, and same with the top. I've got a little piece of glass in here. And then I think the important thing about this one that I want to show is it uses the now infamous seamless panel as a base, which is each one of these points here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are all hosted on the points below them. So if I take point 1 and I move it up, the other point moves with it. That's what gives it that nice seamless effect on a double curvature surface. So we're going to build one of these things from scratch, so all this will be a little bit clearer. And I'm just going to flip right over to that one right now. I'm not going to save this. So just to go from scratch, I've got my basic curtain panel by pattern template, which in Vasari you can get to by just going New, Family, Curtain Panel Pattern Based. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create those points that I was indicating earlier. So this is sort of a process I've used for a gajillion different things. If I activate my point tool and I make my set work plane tool, I'm going to set this work plane right here, the horizontal work plane at this point, to be active. And I'm going to plop a point right on top of it. And I'm going to do that 4 times. Set, point, set, point, set. Come on, keep up, ribbon. Point. So it looks like I've done absolutely nothing, right? So if I select everything here, I can go to my filter here in the corner, and I can see that I've got 4 reference points, among other things. If I only select them, now what I can do is I can offset them. All those points have an offset parameter. If I set it to 10, I can set it out. Even better yet, I can set it to a parameter, so it has a thickness. Let's call it that. So now I can adjust that parametrically. A lot of this stuff is sort of rote work that a lot of you guys have already seen before. So now I'm going to throw them together, and I'm going to give myself a little volume. So now you can see I've got 3D snapping set and reference line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, come on, snap, 3, 4, 5. And what this basically gives me is a volume that I can play with, and just to sort of make sure that I know that this is doing what I expect it to do, I'm going to create a form, and I'm going to load this guy into my project. So here I've got my divided surface, and I'm going to load that thing that I just made into it, which has the charming name of family 2. So if I do family 2, it's going to percolate through here for a minute. Think about it for a second while it makes 64 of them or something. Yeah, 64. And you can see what I've got in the end is I've got a seamless surface. That is, each one of my rectangles has been extruded up and is adjoining its neighbor. So that's not what I want for a space frame though. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete that volume that I just had. I'm going to take all these lines, I'm going to turn them into something that I can actually see. I'm going to make them model lines just by unclicking reference line. And I'm going to start sketching out what I want my space frame geometry to be. So you see I still have, I'm in my model line, I still have 3D snapping set. And I'm just going to make, sort of my rough idea of my space frame here. I'm going to snap to the middle of each one of those lines, And then I'm going to make myself a little triangulated doodad where I snap to the middle of that line and then snap to the end. And I'm going to do that one more time. Oops, I just lost it. I'm going to go snap to the corner, snap to the middle, snap to the top. Kabam. Now, this may or may not be the space frame that you're looking for, but this is a start, basically just to sort of show that once you get those points that have that offset parameter from the base, you can make a space frame that's going to do all sorts of cool things when you load it back in. So I'm going to overwrite that family that I just had before, and you're going to see that this thing's just going to immediately populate with, you know, this crazy lattice work, which in some cases may be all that you actually need for something like, you know, roughing out a space frame, just to sort of get a sense of how the volume of it works. You just have lines and nodal connections, you know. So now in some ways you've got everything that you need, but this can become the scaffolding for something that's more detailed, like what I was showing before, which is, you know, still loaded in here. It's that seamless panel. You know, maybe I want to start bringing more geometry into it. So the one that I have, you know, on the boards here, I can now start, you know, detailing this out. Maybe I want to say, you know, I don't want to have my lines anymore. I'm going to make these into something that's thicker and juicier. So I can go in and just select these guys, and I'm going to turn them into reference lines because I just want to use this as scaffolding and I want to keep it around. So I'm going to turn it into reference lines because those are better for that sort of thing. So if I go in now and I'm going to make this, I'm also going to do TL, which gives me thin lines. It's a hotkey anyway. I can go and I can just start putting some geometry on this. I'm going to set the work plane at that point. I'm going to make a reference line circle like that. And let's say that that's going to be maybe 3 inches. And I'm actually going to use that because I'm going to want to do a couple copies of this. So I'm holding down the control key here and I'm dragging and I'm dragging. So now I have 3 of those guys. I'm going to select the point. I'm going to pick a new host, put it over here, and just because I know I'm going to need to put a couple other profiles around, I'm going to pick a new host, and this just makes it easier. And so these guys are both 3 inches. So it's a big beefy strut, but let's make this one even beefier up here on top. Let's make that 5 inches. And so now I can just start, you know, making my sort of realer geometry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I create a form. So now I've got a nice top bar, and I can select these guys, and I'm going to make one sweep that goes down and back up. You know, that's not how you'd really build it, but we're just roughing this thing out right now. And I'm going to get this guy too, and I'm going to create form from that. And let's give this sort of one more dimension down here on the bottom. And I'm going to leave these as lines just because, I don't know, maybe these things are just tension rods or something. I don't really want to have them with, you know, any real geometry. So I'm going to snap to the middle, and I'm going to snap to the middle over here too. And what, I guess I had some glass in there too. So I'm just going to take that geometry and I'm going to hide it for a second so that I can see this thing here. I'm going to select and then select my other lines and put a little infinitely thin piece of glass in there like that. And let's actually just call it what it is. A lot of these things, a lot of these families already have sort of pre-made materials, so let's just call this glass. Whoops, capitals. Glass. And that's it. Let's load it in and see what happens. So putting this back in, I think this is my family 2, which I'm overwriting. And I have this other guy that I substituted in before. And let's see how it goes. As it processes all 64 of those guys. And there we have it. So not too much time, not too much fuss. It may not be the most accurate thing that you wanted. You know, there's going to be overlap between the pipes that are adjoining each other and other things like that. But to quickly sort of rough out this sort of fairly complex geometry, it's not too painful. Anyway, I knew that there were a bunch of people out there that were looking at doing things like space frames, so hopefully this will help you out. and let me know about other questions that you have about how to use these tools to make funny shapes. Thanks for watching.